Hello everyone, it's Gina from orchidandopal.com, and today I'm back with a pendant tutorial which uses a 25mm round cabochon. Everything that you see here you can find at beadingschool.com. I'll have a link to them, as well as all the products that I'm using today, and the specific color variations will be listed on the corresponding blog post. The 25mm cab that you see here and the 15-0 seed beads that we're going to be using came in the recent Beading School Academy subscription, so I went ahead and pulled those together. And I also combined them with some other things I had from my stash that they also carry, including the round duo beads that you see here in this caramel color, some dark bronze 11-0 seed beads, some true 2mm fire polish. You can either use that size or you can use a 2mm round, and some 3mm Preciosa crystal bicones. We're going to combine these all together to make this pendant. And if you want to take a look at the back, there is a look. We'll be making a very simple little beaded bail. You can slip some chain or some cord or ribbon right through there and make this fun pendant in all sorts of colors. The sky's the limit. For my beading thread today, I'll be using my usual 6-pound test Fireline in the color black, so it'll be easier for you to see against the white background. And I'll be using a size 11 beading needle. To get started, go ahead and gather up your materials and thread your needle with a comfortable length of beading thread, and we will jump into this tutorial. To get started, we're going to be picking up an alternating pattern of one bicone and one 2mm bead. We're going to do that 14 times. So one bicone, one 2mm bead, and just keep repeating that. And I have 7 of each at this point. I'm going to go ahead and pull these down and leave yourself a 4 to 6 inch tail. And let's pick up our remaining 7 of each. All right, and pull the rest of those down. Double check that you have 14 of each alternating. And then you can take your needle and you can sew back up through all of those beads again. Make sure you don't skip any as you're sewing back through them. And when you get back to your tail thread, you can see how the working thread and the tail thread are just sort of meeting right there. I'm going to take both sides. I'm going to do an overhand knot that will go right in between those two beads. Then I'm going to take the tail thread, go over the working thread this way, and go around that 2 times with my tail thread. And then pull that down. So we have this loop of beads, we've got our tail thread here. At this point I'm going to put a needle on this tail thread and just weave that back in a little bit and trim off the excess for the tutorial. You're welcome to do that now, or you can wait till later, but I'll be right back. All right, now with the tail thread in, I'm going to take my working thread and just sew through the next couple of beads. I want to be coming out of a 2mm. And we're going to be working with our 15-0s at this point. So I pulled those out. These are in silver as well. What we're going to do all the way around is pick up 3 of our 15-0s, skip the bicone, and then sew through the next 2mm bead. You're going to do that all the way around the piece. So once again, pick up 3 15-0s, skip the next bicone, and sew through the next 2mm. And now you'll be doing that 12 more times. And we're at our last one, so we're going to go through the 2mm and also this time go through the next bicone bead. So this is what we have so far. You can see we've got those 3 15-0s surrounding each of the bicones, and these are actually going to be sitting inside, but we'll get to that in the next step. The next step is to pick up 3 of our 11-0s, and I'm using Delicas just to give you another bead type that you can use. You can use round seed beads or Delicas in this design pretty much interchangeably. So with the 3 Delicas, this time I'm going to start to pull those 15-0 seed beads toward the center, skip the next 2mm, and this time go through the next bicone. And those are going to sit on the outside. So repeat that 13 more times, pick up 3 11-0s, skip the 2mm, and sew through the next bicone bead. And we'll do that again. Skipping the 2mm and going through the bicone. And you can see I'm just moving those 15-0s into the center as I go. And then we're on our last one, and for this one, we're going to go through the bicone and go through the next 2 11-0s. And this is what we have, and you can see we're coming out of that 11-0, which is right at the center of this picot. Next, we're going to be creating 2 units of right angle weave, or raw, onto each of these picots at these center 11-0 seed beads. And dealing with this one right here, the first unit we're going to make, we're going to pick up an 11-0, a 2mm, and an 11-0. Then sew through the same 11-0 at the center of the picot that you're coming out of. So you have something like this. Then sew up through that next 11-0 and pull, and then sew over and through that 2mm bead that you just added and pull. So that's 1 unit. We have 1 more to make on top of that, which is going to be made up of 3 11-0s. Pick those up and then go through that 2mm through the opposite direction where your thread is coming out. This time we'll go up through the next 11-0 this way, and then we'll go through the next 11-0 at the top. So you can see we've got our 2 units of right angle weave added, and we're going to be doing that on each of these sections. Now we need to just get back down to our beadwork to go to the next section. So just follow your thread path, going through each of these beads, weaving through the next bead that you get to, over and down. Until you can then sew through your next bicone bead, and then through the next 2 seed beads to get to your next section. So now we're in position to do that again. We'll do one more together. Pick up one 11-0, one 2mm, and one 11-0. And then sew through that 11-0 that you're coming out of once again. Sew up through the next 11-0 and over through the 2mm. And you'll add one more unit on top of that, just using 3 11-0s. Pick those up, go through the 2mm that you're coming out of, through the opposite direction, sew up through the 11-0 that you get to next, and then over, and then sew down and over through all these beads in this new section in order to get to your next picot to continue on. And then we're ready for our next one. So you're going to end up with this sort of a crown-like shape all the way around your piece. So do this 12 more times now, all the way around, getting back to the beginning. And at that point, we'll meet back for the next step. And welcome back. This is what you should have so far. And I am coming out of this 11-0 right here at the very top of this picot section. And I've already reinforced this. I did go around these beads again before I came out of the top here. Now what we're going to do, and you can clear out your 11-0s and any other beads you have at this point, we're just going to be using our 15-0s and those round DropDuos at this point. And for this step, before we put in the cabochon, we're going to be picking up 3 of our 15-0s. And then we're going to sew directly through the next 11-0 at the top of that next section. This is going to start to gather the beadwork together, and it's going to form the section that's going to sit at the back of our cabochon. So just keep repeating this now all the way around, picking up 3 15-0s and going through the next 11-0 at the top. And when you get to your last section, make sure you're going through the correct 11-0. This one's going to want to sit at the side, but really that one's not the right one. You want to go just through that 11-0 right there and continue going through your beads. And before we tighten this up, of course, we need to add our cabochon. So take that and insert it face down into your beadwork, into the center of that, and slowly start to just pull this beadwork around the back. And as we go, this is going to tighten up, but that's what you should have on the front. And make sure all your little 15-0s in these picots are facing up and out and are on the top of this cabochon. So now we're going to go around this loop of beads at least once more. I'd recommend at least twice more. And as you go, just start to pull this tight after each pass. Once that's tight around the back of your piece, it should look something like that. And there's a look at the sides and the front. And at this point, what we want to do is we want to come out of one of our 11-0s that's right below a 2mm right down there, because that's going to position us where we want to pick up a DropDuo. We're going to go through the wider portion of that, and you can start to pull that down. Then go down through the 11-0 that is in that next section, and that's just going to loosely get our first DropDuo in place. Then go through the next 11-0 that's on the actual bottom loop, and then head up through the next 11-0. At that point, pick up another DropDuo through that wider base, go down through the next 11-0, and then follow your thread path through the next two 11-0s to get into position to add your next one. And up through this one, go through the wider base, then down through this 11-0, and over, and up through the next one. So keep doing that so you have 14 of your DropDuos all the way around your piece, and they're not going to be totally secure yet. They'll be kind of moving around a little bit at that point. They're going to straighten up as we go, but just get them in place and get to the other side, and we will meet back for the next steps. And now with all of your DropDuos in place, I'm currently coming out of this 11-0 down here. I'm going to continue going up through the next 11-0 like we were doing. Then I'm going to head over through the next DropDuo bead. Now we're going to pick up two 15-0s, then sew through the wider portion of the next DropDuo bead and do this all the way around. Once again, two 15-0s, sew through the next DropDuo bead. And repeat that. And at this point, my thread is getting a little bit short. I'm going to tie this one off and add a new one as I go, but keep going, adding two 15-0s in between each of your DropDuos, and then we'll meet back for the next step. All right, so I'm coming up on my last one. I've got my two 15-0s. I'm going to go through the next DropDuo, and I'm going to sew through the next two 15-0s. And then we're going to begin our next step. And to do that, we're going to be picking up 2 more 15-0s, then sew up through the narrow hole of that next drop duo. Pick up 2 15-0s, and then sew through the 2 15-0s down here that are already in place. And you can see we're surrounding each of these drop duos with more beads, and we're also setting ourselves up for the next step where we're going to complete that loop of beads around them. So once again, pick up 2 15-0s, sew through the narrow hole, pick up 2 more 15-0s, and then sew through the 2 15-0s that we just placed in between this one and the next drop duo. And just keep repeating this now all the way around till you get back to the beginning. That's what the front is looking like. And there we are on the back. So keep doing that, and I'll meet you back once we get to the other side. All right, so now with your piece flipped over to the front, you can just take your fingers and start to flatten out each of those little petals or drop duo beads. Just get everything kind of straightened out. And we'll go back to the back. I'm coming out of this 15-0 right here. I'm just going to continue heading up through the 2 that we had just placed in the previous step. Then I'm going to pick up 5 15-0s. I'm going to head down through those 2 15-0s that we had just placed. You can see that frames out that drop duo nicely like that on this side. Then I'm going to pick up 1 15-0 and head up the next 2 15-0s that we had just added on the side. And keep repeating this all the way around. Pick up 5 15-0s. Sew down through those 2 on the side. Pick up 1. And then head up through the 2 on the side of the other drop duo. And then we're ready to pick up 5 again to go around the top. Pick up 1, we'll go up through these 2, and get 5 more. So continue doing that all the way around the piece, and then after that we'll be pretty much done. I do have one other thing you can do if you want these to lay even better and tighten up. So I'll show you that once we have done this step all the way around. And here's what our piece looks like all framed out. And the other thing you can do that I suggest is just keep following your thread path of 15-0s and go until you get to right before that center bead that you just added in this previous step. Then skip that one and continue sewing to the next section. That's just going to tighten up the area where these drop duos are a tiny bit. And we'll keep going. Down to that one, skip the next bead that we had added, and continue sewing. So this is an optional step. It's just one that I like to do. I find that it reinforces these petals. They stick out nicely and sit together really evenly. And then once you've done that, what we can do is make a really simple bail, and you're welcome to make any kind of bail that you would like to. I'll just give you an example of a simple one that you can add to the back of this pendant so that you'll be able to attach it to your stringing material. All right, so now if you want to create that simple bail, just sew until you're coming out of one of these 15-0s right up here over the top of your drop duos. That leaves 3 more to the side, and then there's that one in the center. So if you're coming out of that one, pick up 5 15-0s And then go over here to this side, count 1, 2, 3, and then sew through the next few 15 O's over the top of that DropDuo. So you've just added those right there. Flipping this over, I'm gonna sew through the rest of these 15 O's that are on the side of this DropDuo. And then I'm going to go through the base of the next DropDuo. And then I'm going to sew up through these next 3 15 O's to get back to that new section we just added. And I'm going to sew through the first 2 of those 5, skip the middle one, and sew through the next 2. That's going to pop that one up a little bit in the center. Then I'm going to sew down through these 3 to the side of that DropDuo, up through the 3 on the other side again, and then sew through the next 3 15 O's. So go through the one that's sticking out in the middle as well now. Now pick up 9 of your 11 O's. And I'm going to go through this 11 O down here, right below that section, and tack down this strip of 9 beads. Then I'm going to pick up 9 more. And I'm going to sew back through that 15 O at the top of that section. And now we've got 2 loops consisting of 9 beads each, right on the back. Now I'm going to continue down through the next 6 beads on that first strip. And I'm just going to connect the center 3. So on the next stripe, I'm going to go up through the 3 11 O's in the center only. And then pull. Then sew back down these 3. And this time I'll sew up through those top 6. Go through the 15 O. And I'll sew down all throughout these 9. Once again on this first stripe that we had added. Through that 11 O on the loop. And back up through all those 9 on the other stripe. So that's just reinforcing that area. And now we have a really simple bail section where we can attach that to our full necklace. And at this point, we can just weave in and knot the rest of our remaining working thread and trim off the excess. So I'm just following my thread path down the back of the beadwork. I'll make a half hitch knot right there. Continue sewing through some of these beads and make a couple more half hitch knots, hiding my thread along the way. So once you've done that, trim off your excess thread and then we can admire our work. So that concludes this tutorial. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm always happy to have you and I hope to see you again soon. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Feel free to share this tutorial wherever you like, and make sure you give the video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and feel free to leave a comment below, especially if you decide to give this a try. Let me know how it goes, or anything else you'd like to say. Be sure to check down below once again for the link to Beading School, where you can find all of these materials and much more, and check for the specific links to the materials that I'm using today right down below and the quantities you'll need. And check the corresponding blog post that I have linked as well, which will give you the rundown on all the specific colors for each of these different colorways. That's all I have for now. I hope to see you again real soon, and until next time, I want to wish you a fabulous rest of your day, and as always, happy beading.